houses and businesses across the state have been submerged following torrential rainfall on Tuesday. Floodwaters swept through major areas, including Mile 2, Leki Phase 1, the Leki Expressway, Third Mainland Bridge, Ago Palace Way, and Sangotedo, forcing commuters to abandon their vehicles and walk long distances. Videos circulating on social media show cars and motorcycles struggling through waterlogged streets, with some luxury vehicles completely submerged in knee-deep floodwater. Let's take a look.
We covered the bridge. 23rd of September. Look at it. Water can no longer go out. Look at it. Look at it. See the water covered everywhere.
Now, this was so scary. In Leki, even supermarkets were flooded. A now viral video posted by a content creator showed the moment she made her way through a flooded supermarket with water up to her ankles. Let's take a look.
Who said Africa doesn't have water? Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, ma'am.
So we are outside. We are live from Leki, and this is our life.
Yeah, the big boys life in Leki.
The big boys' life in Leki. This is us just going to the supermarket to buy drink. Even inside supermarket, there's water. This is crazy. Good evening. Omo, what is this? Hi. Hello.
Omo, the struggle. The suffer is real.
Well, in response, the Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, extended his sympathy to all affected residents, acknowledging the city's natural vulnerability as a coastal area. In a post on X, he highlighted the government's ongoing investments in drainage infrastructure, citing illegal construction on floodplains and refuse dumping as contributing factors to the floods. And I'll read his post on X in part. He wrote, "Around House on Rock Church, the flooding was linked to infractions we highlighted earlier, illegal construction on floodplains and dumping of refuse in drains. These kinds of activities worsen flooding and must stop. We appeal for understanding and continued cooperation from the public, keeping our environment clean, refraining from dumping refuse into drains, and avoiding construction on floodplains are vital to achieving a flood-free Lagos." In several of the videos shared yesterday, clear infractions were observed, and Lagos State government will ensure that such illegal structures and obstructions are promptly removed. We also wish to assure residents that the flooding was a flash flood in some parts of the state and has since receded this morning. The ministry remains committed to strengthening our flood management systems, but this effort requires the support and responsible actions of all Lagosians. Together, we can build a safer, cleaner, and more resilient Lagos. Well, Dr. Abati, I'll come to you. We are here in Lagos, and most of us did experience that flash flooding in Lagos on Tuesday. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, is saying that we all have to come together to help, clear our drainage systems. And of course, he blamed, illegal construction, especially in that Leki area. What are your thoughts on the stories so far?
Okay, two things. Now, Commissioner Wahab has said this is floodplain. Apart from Commissioner Tokunbo Wahab describing it as a flood, flash floods. That's the phrase that he used. You also see that climate change is one of the recurrent subjects at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly. Vice President Kashim Shettima referred to it. The President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, who is projecting himself as a champion for climate change, climate action in Africa, also talked about it. In other words, the entire world is facing an existential challenge in terms of climate change. And it's not only in Nigeria. We have had flash floods, even worse than what happened in Lagos, in Central Europe, in Japan, in other parts of the world this year. In fact, Spain, a section of Spain was almost submerged in water. So we share that tragedy with other parts of the world. But whereas, you may say, other countries are making concerted efforts, even in spite of the hypocrisy of the international community with regard to climate action, what are we doing here in Nigeria beyond the rhetoric? Now, Commissioner Wahab also tried to answer that question by reacting to the specific examples that you have shown. He said, for example, that in a place called Kushenla, somewhere around Lake area, he says the problem is technical because the downstream end of the flow of the water is 1.2 meters higher. So that area is, naturally going to be submerged. And then in another part, around House on the Rock and all of that, he said the problem is that people are reclaiming land, people are building on drainages, people are, are violating the floodplains. Now, the way the Lagos State government has responded to this is to demolish what they call illegal structures. And they keep threatening that they will continue to demolish illegal structures. However, the problem here is that the problem has become perennial. Anytime it rains in Lagos, no matter the volume of the rain, the whole town shuts down. The whole city shuts down. People left their offices around 1 p.m. on that Tuesday. They didn't get home until 2 a.m. Now calculate the cost in terms of man-hours lost, the pain for people, and then the fact that houses became floating seas. And in fact, you could have paddled a canoe on certain parts of Lagos. But it's an essential problem, and there must continue to be concerted action. NIMET warned that there will be rains, non-stop, rainfall, non-stop, in about 6 or so states for about 4 days. Now, tragedy occurs, problem occurs. Who is going to compensate the people who lost their vehicles? Who is going to repair the vehicles? The only part of it that I'm uneasy about is the attempt to politicize it by Gbadebo Roosevelt, the Labour Party chieftain, who was saying, the APC has failed. They've been doing it for 20 years. And it's because they have failed that you are suffering in this manner. No, climate change is not about, politics at that level.
All right.
But the public will have to be continuously educated. We are all involved, whether you're a gubernatorial candidate or you are a traditional ruler.
Yeah, we shouldn't be playing politics at this time. I'll come to you. People living in Leki are blaming the construction of the Lagos Coastal Highway project, saying that the construction lacked proper drainage system. But last month, we saw that the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, had dismissed social media reports alleging a lack of drainage system on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. He said that the Coastal Highway project included 750 kilometers of dual underground drainage system. I mean, this is the conversation from the residents in Leki, especially saying that since the construction began, we have experienced more flood than before. But we have seen that there's, increase in floods, especially back in April, even in July, we've seen more floods in that area as well.
I think it would be interesting. I cannot say that we've seen like a more devastating effect of flood since Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road started. I say this because this is not the first time in Lagos State that homes have been flooded. I recall, in the early, about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something similar happened as well. Whenever we have continuous rainfall of this nature, before and now, post the construction of the Coastal Highway, we have seen homes and businesses affected. So I think it's a cheap shot we can investigate that, but it's a cheap shot because it is something that's happened even before the construction of the coastal highways. However, you hit a point whereby we talk about the drainage infrastructure, especially in Lagos State not being sufficient. I feel very bad because, I love my Lagos State. Yes. I always speak up for the state, Nibaj and the likes. But there's also a moment of truth where we have to tell ourselves the truth and be honest so that we can chart a pathway forward. Now, the Governor of Lagos State came on board on the campaign of themes in terms of the plans he had for the state, highlighting some of the key challenges that the state had and how he hoped to address that. His priority areas, according to the themes agenda, was transportation and traffic management. We saw how horrendous transportation or traffic management was on the days that rain fell. Like Dr. Batty cited, a number of people, if you were stuck outside when the rain started, it was jeopardy for you. It was horrible. Families, children who went to school were returning with their school buses around 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and we still had to go to school the next day. It was a terrible situation. We look at making Lagos State a 21st century city, mega city. If we're looking at a 21st century mega city that cannot manage rainfall, we are not anywhere close to the 21st century mega city. I say this because this is the second term of the governor, and even as he begins to wrap up his term in office, he's done some really great work in Lagos State. But if we're looking at him based on the promises he made to Lagosians, then he has to really look at some of these areas and see the ways in which he can chart in a path forward. We also looked at the fact that, we looked at the environment. Health and environment was also a key part. So let's talk about the environment. A number of things. I agree with the commissioner who said that, people pour waste management. Absolutely. And this is something that they have talked about. In fact, the Lagos State governor introduced the ban on plastic. Yes. And now you have to pay for your plastic bag, which was a good move. And now when you complain about it, at least you understand the reason why that policy was made. But there's a lot more to be done. Yes. We look at the demolition of houses. He's heavily criticized for this. You can understand now why such decisions have to be made. Yes. If you do not agree with those, then don't complain when flood happens like this. However, there's still a taller task to ask, which is there are some prominent buildings in Victoria Island, in Leki, If you're targeting people in Bariga, in Maryland, why don't you look at people in Leki and Victoria Island who have also built illegal structures on these drainage pathways? Right. So I think that there's a holistic approach to this, but Lagos State cannot continue to claim to be the 21st century city and still have issues. Yes, there's climate change, but we can also mitigate the effects or minimize the effects of climate change.
Absolutely. Cars submerged, people
Yes,
lost their...
it's terrible.
those cars, I'm sure they don't have insurance. But now the Lagos Commissioner has urged for some cooperation between residents and the government. We need to ensure that we have a greater Lagos. Eko ni baje, as I always say to you, Ayo. Now,
so the problem I have is trying to politicize every issues. Anytime we have a pressing matter that comes up like this, especially the one of national interest, and then we find a leader trying to, make some political statement and trying to politicize, to make excuses for their inordinate, and it becomes a very, very serious issue to me. Instead of going up the way and then trying to make a tangible effort to salvaging the situations, you're just trying to politicize every little thing. It becomes a very, very degrading, what happens if the commissioner come up straight to apologize to the people and then, promise them as usual a lasting solution, so they are making a very tangible effort to a very lasting solution, instead of trying to politicize it by saying that some persons are building on drainage and doing, and even in Leki, of course, what happens to, just like I pointed out, there are some houses too, there are some areas that were not, that followed the plan and has not built on drainage and all of that, and then at the end of the day, those houses too were submerged by this flood. So what happens to them? What excuse are we now going to make out of those ones? What am I trying to say is that instead of trying to make a blame or trying to push up something, why not come up with a well structured press release, to tackling and to promising the people of a lasting solution. We keep having this flash, as it was used by the commissioner, flash flood almost every year, almost every season. We keep having this flash flood. So for how long are we going to continue having this flash flood? So for how long? So I think that this is not just about the state; it's becoming of a national interest. So the Lagos State governor should devise a very, very lasting solution. You have about 2 more years in the office before leaving the office. I'm sure he's going to witness the next 2 raining season. So if he actually puts that, we might not have to experience this. Using this